Hello and welcome to Flashback, a weekly look at stories from years gone by. Avalanches can be quite a terrifying sight, compounded when you see an avalanche go airborne. But what happens when it hits an immovable object, or a seemingly immovable object like a hydro tower that supplies an entire city? Well, let's take a look back into our archives to February 27, 1989 to see exactly what happened and how crews handled it.
On January 22nd, a wall of snow cascaded down this mountain east of the Salvis Highway Yard on the south side of the Skeena River. It's been described as a once-in-75-year avalanche. Normally, such slides go virtually unnoticed, but this one became airborne halfway down the mountain and slammed into this BC Hydro transmission tower. The tower, which carries the principal power supply to Prince Rupert and Port Edward, was buried under 5 meters of snow. 2 of its legs were sheared off by the force of the slide, while a third was partially severed. It now leaned at a 25-degree angle and was in a constant threat of toppling. Permanent repairs could not be made until spring, so Hydro decided to prop up the tower with 2 20-meter-high poles, hoping their new crutch would help the tower make it through the spring avalanche season.
As far as the procedure of setting the poles, it's pretty basic as far as the general line work goes, but because of the area that we're in, we're having to do extra loading with gravel to stabilize it and put some rock pins up the hill to add extra guying just to make sure that if there's any more slides this spring, hopefully we'll be able to save the structure that's there. Actually, it's amazing that the tower is still sitting where it is. There's 12 to 15 feet of snow around the footings itself, and it could have been just as easily slid down the hill and be laying in the Skeena River right now, so we're really surprised it's standing where it is.
The work can be described as precarious at best. Helicopters flying 1,300-kilogram buckets of gravel along with 1,200-kilogram wooden poles, while at the same time dodging power lines and the damaged tower.
I don't think there's anything more dangerous. Luckily, our job isn't like this every day, but as you can see, this tower could buckle, and if we hit this tower when we're bringing in heavy loads like that, the tower could come down. Another good danger is when we go to take this tower down, because all these pieces of steel are loaded and they can just bang right out and knock people flying in cases like that. But it'll be something we have to cover when time comes.
Everyone associated with the repair is concerned about safety.
I think about it every day that we're out there, and mainly because the men are at such risk. If that tower falls down, they've got no place to go. There's a good possibility somebody could get hurt.
There's also the biting cold beating down on the crew from the helicopters. The north side of the mountain sees very little sunshine in the winter, so only a slight wind numbs you to the bone. The most delicate part of the operation is getting the poles and gravel in place between the overhead power lines. Meticulous flying skills are needed, along with constant communication with the crew below.
Once we got all the gravel flowing, then we'll just rip this board off, and there's a couple barrels in here that's about 8 feet deep, and that'll get we can set the pole in there quite nicely. Tire on up top, and that's it.
The recent cold spell delayed the repair work for 4 weeks. Prince Rupert customers were drawing record levels of power along the line, and backup generators would be pushed to the limit if the transmission line was cut, and it would have to be cut in order to work on the tower.
The problem lies is where we have to cut that line off, and we're running our turbines, which I think have a 50 megawatt limit. And if we're going to take an outage on the transmission line, we don't want to load the turbines to the limit. It's too much of a risk. If something faltered on one, then we've got a problem with our customers. We don't want to do that.
Several attempts were made to repair the tower, but either the weather would not cooperate or there would be a generating problem in Prince Rupert. As well, the Skeena Cellulose pulp mill would have to generate its own power because the Rupert generators could not meet the demand.
Okay, I'm not sure what about Skeena Cell's costs, but our cost can be anywhere for I would say a 12-hour period, anywhere from $18,000 to $36,000. Now that's dependent on whether we have natural gas. If we have to go on liquid fuel in our turbines, the costs are just about double.
Which is what you have to do now because of the shortage of natural gas for bulk users.
Well, we would have had to do that last week. Fortunately, today we're half and half. We got 1 unit on liquid fuel and 1 on natural gas, so it's not quite as expensive.
Avalanches are an expensive thing for BC Hydro.
They are, yeah, and they can be quite an inconvenience to our customers too if we have a problem like we've had here. And I just hope it doesn't happen that often.
While Highway 16 and the railway wind their way along the north side of the Skeena, BC Hydro decided to run their main transmission line along the south side of the river. Hydro has avoided many slide areas by placing their towers on some of the many islands and out of the reach of avalanches.
Transmission line was built in 1967. It's had very good service. I think we've had during that period 2 outages which extended beyond a day. So that's a fairly good record. We spent a lot of money with erosion protection on the Skeena and avalanche protection with berms, etc., and it's paid off. And this particular tower that was hit, if we hadn't done the reinforcing and the legs that's there now, the tower would be in the Skeena River and we'd be cut off.